We are at the Nebraska Soybean Management Field Days, talking now with Chuck Burr, UNL Extension Educator. Chuck, you spend an awful lot of time on irrigation, and here at Soybean Management Field Days, you're kind of giving them the updates. So what are you telling guys?
Well, basically telling producers you irrigate soybeans differently than corn. Okay, they both use water. Soybeans respond better to late water compared to corn. Corn needs it early, soybeans need it late. So basically telling producers need to monitor soil moisture or use an ET gauge to estimate crop water use, and then use that to schedule our irrigations.
One of the things that the UNL Extension has worked a lot with is building applications for today's smartphones. A lot of producers are using that will maybe help answer some of those questions, help them with scheduling, correct?
Exactly. We've got 4 apps, so kind of a suite of apps now. The main one would be our crop water app. Basically, if you use some watermark soil moisture sensors, you can put in the numbers that you get out of the sensor, put in your field name so you can keep track of it for the growing season, and your soil type. It'll tell you how much water is depleted out of the water or out of the profile and how much is remaining before we start causing stress to the crop.
Soybean Management Field Days, of course, starts south of Nebraska City, works its way more towards central Nebraska. I would guess there are different challenges for irrigators as you go across the state.
Well, there are, and the eastern end of the state, typically we get more rainfall, so we can schedule irrigations to reduce some pumping costs. If we can hold off a couple inches of application, that'll save us some pumping costs. Farther west, we get into areas where they have low capacity wells and allocations, so there we're trying to save water that they can use maybe later in the growing season or use it for next year.
Are you talking about some of these new, kind of the new version of the soil probes or the moisture probes and the importance that those can play?
Yeah, the soil probes, of course, we've got the watermark soil moisture sensors. That's probably the cheaper option. UNL has a lot of research data on different soil types using these probes at different locations. Some of the new capacitance types probes, we don't have the research data on that. They're not really calibrated to soils in Nebraska yet. So we use those more of a guideline, kind of watch the trends, what's the soil moisture doing in that second and third foot, and using that to help us schedule irrigations.
Before we let you go, you also do some work there with Monsanto at Gothenburg at their learning center, do a lot of research on corn. How's the summer gone there?
It's been pretty interesting. Of course, we had a windstorm here a while back. We've happened to miss the hailstorms this year, so we've been lucky from that respect. But things look good. Even our dryland crops, they're kind of hanging on, need a little more of a drink. I think we had an inch 75 here in this last week, so they can hang on for another 10 days or so.
Right. Chuck, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ken.
Chuck Burr, Extension Educator with UNL, one of our guests at the Soybean Management Field Days. Reporting near Auburn for AgView, I'm Ken Rogers.